Was there a cleanup on aisle 7 that Boeing needed to make that they never made? They botched the handling of both of the MAX crashes from a PR standpoint.
If you do something shady once, and especially if you get caught lying about it, oh, you lied before, why would I believe you now?
I want to start a new movement, Gary. You might want to be the first member. I want to be a flat mooner. I saw pictures from on the moon and the Earth was round, but I'm not so sure that the moon is not flat. All right, welcome to another episode of Hangar Flying. I'm Captain Steve, and I'm joined by my co-host, Gary B. Pilot. Gary, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. These weeks just keep flying by, so I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, they do. I want to talk about Boeing today, and Boeing's been in the news a lot over the last few years, certainly with Air India 171 and that 787 crash, which was just devastatingly tragic. Boeing keeps coming back up over and over and over again, and I think the general public is pretty evenly split on at least the Air India crash with what they think happened, and then a lot of blame on Boeing's part. And you've had a lot to say about Boeing over the years, and I don't want to be unfair to them, but at the same time I want to try to balance out the conversation, I guess, on Boeing. So I'm really curious about your initial thoughts on the kind of the future of Boeing's manufacturing, and what changes you think they need to make, and what mistakes or missteps they've made in the past, and kind of help us to understand the argument about what's going on with Boeing these days.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very polarizing topic, and it's been a long time in the making. As somebody that, grew up in Washington State, I remember in high school, and we toured the Boeing factory up there in Everett. I think it's one of the largest indoor buildings ever built, and Boeing was just like a cornerstone of America and like of greatness. And I think, so I just want to say that nobody is rooting for Boeing more than me, but, it's, as you said, you have to be fair. You have to talk about criticisms. I think they've lost their way. A lot of people would argue when it really started to go downhill is when they merged with McDonnell Douglas. And then when they moved their headquarters all the way over to Chicago, and they kind of lost touch, I have said that it's, it's my personal opinion that I think Boeing has lost its way in a few ways. And one of those ways is that I think that, and this is without me trying to get too political here, is that when they went a little bit more towards defense contract and more towards as their government as their biggest customer, that they naturally kind of lost touch with where they came from and what they did. I mean, you can see that now their headquarters are now in Washington, D.C., and it makes sense. It's like your biggest source of income is, well, might as well put it right there where it's coming from, in Washington, D.C. So, it's a very tough situation. I think some of the stuff has been unfair to them, but then some of the stuff has been fair. And, general overview, I think it's fair to have criticism because, when things need to change, things need to change, and as you, as well as I know, back in the day, it was, if it's not Boeing, I ain't going. And now that motto has shifted, and it kind of shows you the cultural shift of what happened. It used to be that the Airbus was oh my gosh, that weird thing and all that stuff. And now it's becoming, a little bit of a problem. And so, we could go into, the history, even what you so-called whistleblowers, some of the people that have faced punitive, pushback from the company from bringing things up. As I said, it's a very polarizing topic to talk about, but I think that the conversation needs to be had, and we can, get into a little bit of that in their history and what they could do to improve and to get back on track for their reputation.
I think for me, Boeing falls into two or three different camps, at least where they are today. One is, have they lost kind of their engineering roots in a sense? And you alluded to that. They're not exactly who they used to be. And maybe some of that reason is because the long tentacles of government kind of get into you after a while, and now that's your biggest customer. So you're pleasing that customer, but you're also got other customers, all the airlines that you build airliners for, that aren't governmental agencies. That's one side of it. Have they lost their engineering roots? The other is the culture somehow changed over the years, just internally at the company, and those two might be related to each other. And then, a third one is possibly the idea of cutting corners, and or is this just a PR problem for them? In other words, maybe they've got a really lousy PR department, and they haven't gotten out in front of some of these things or explained them well enough to the general public. And my evidence for that is, Air Indy 171 is probably the biggest airline accident in the last 20 years, easily. There's so many questions with that, and everybody broke into two camps. One was it was pilot error, and the other was it was Boeing, and it had to be Boeing because of Boeing's past problems. And so, having said that, did was there a cleanup on aisle 7 that Boeing needed to make that they never made? In other words, I think personally they botched the handling of both of the Max crashes from a PR standpoint. I don't know that they've gotten better at handling their public relations since then. And what to me is missing with the Air India crash is that I haven't heard a word from Boeing about it. Nothing. They're just silent on the topic. So that leaves a lot of people out there to hypothesize and to theorize about, there was something wrong with those fuel control switches. The airplane was a disaster. It was a mess right from the beginning. And Boeing's not doing much to help themselves. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is one of those another ones of maybe way above my pay grade. I mean, you would hope that they are making the right decision when it comes to that. Maybe it's out of respect because it's sometimes it's
Sure.
you're darned if you do, darned if you
I
don't.
think, Gary, I think you make a powerful point, and that point is the old "thou doth protest too much," right? And so if Boeing, they're between a rock and a hard place. If they protest too much or they try to explain too many things, then people go, well, why are they explaining so hard? Do they have something they're covering up? And on the other side, if they don't say anything, then it's like, well, why don't they say something? So I think it's a rock and a hard place for them. Their old track record is not helping them at all. It's easy for people to bring in their past PR failures and their past engineering and cultural failures to where they are today. And I agree with you. I don't think they're completely over those issues either. So the best path I think for Boeing going forward is just make the highest quality product you can. What is telling to me in the Air India incident is this: there were no directives put out, airworthiness directives at all, zero, about those fuel control switches. That tells me that the investigators in India, the NTSB, the Canadians, the Boeing, the FAA, everybody that looked at the evidence in that crash said there's nothing wrong with these fuel control switches. So much so that we don't even want to go through just a cursory glance at them. And so that what they didn't put in that report is just as loud as what they did put in it. So I don't think Boeing has any problems in terms of fuel control switches on other airplanes. I'm certainly not concerned about that. But they've had a bad track record in the past, and this is not helping them.
No, I totally agree. And if you look at the comments and just the emails I get and the different the sentiment out there is that this is the problem. If you do something shady once and especially if you get caught lying about it, it's going to tarnish everything. Now is going to be, well, you lied before, why would I believe you now? So let's say Air India has zero to do with Boeing, it's zero problems. You still have this lingering PR problem of people saying, look at, they lied here. So now, I mean, I have people telling me that it's easier, which is, but I'll be very specific here. It is in a lot of senses just easier to blame a pilot on something than it is to put it on a huge company or the airline. And so sometimes, that is a thing. But you now have people saying that, this is a complete cover up. Boeing is paying all the people to cover this up, and that this is, they're only not putting this out because it's all, a huge cover up. This is the sentiment you're getting out there. I'm not saying that's what I believe, but this is the sentiment you're getting from your reputation. And it's a problem when a crash happens and half of everybody says, I'm never getting on a Boeing again, I don't trust you. And that's the sad reality of where we're at. And so, as I said, Boeing has a big hole to climb out of. And as I said, when it comes to Air India, there's a very good chance that it was zero. We still need to wait for the full report, but there's still a good chance that Boeing had nothing to do with that. But your reputation has built up resentment and this kind of hostile attitude towards you. So it's unfortunate where Boeing's at right now.
You talk about trust and how important that is, and that's hugely important anywhere in any endeavor. Family, marriage, a YouTube channel. People want to trust the product that you're putting out. Boeing, you want to trust that they're putting out a good product when you get on the airplane. And trust is really hard to build back if you've lost it. So it takes a lot of effort on their part and everybody's part for that, for the most part. Having said that, I've gotten a lot of comments and criticism. I mean, thousands of comments of people that say I'm in the tank for Boeing. I'm a shill for Boeing. I'm on the payroll for Boeing. And I'm here to tell you, my friends, I wish I was on the payroll for Boeing. I don't get a dime from them. We call balls and strikes here, and there's going to be times where I'm like Boeing great, and I'm like Boeing bad, right? Or Airbus great or Airbus bad. That's just the way it is. We call balls and strikes, and so you can keep sending those comments, but they're just emotion driven. And so, folks, just listen to me. You know, if you know somebody at Boeing that wants to send me a check, please, by all means, reach out to them. And I would love to have that conversation, but I am not getting paid by them or anybody else except for you who click on these videos and watch them through YouTube. And, you know, that's kind of the way it is. So, again, that's not an apology. It's just an explanation for how things work or don't work. So I want you to be able to trust us here. I'm not in the tank for Boeing.
Sounds like something somebody in the tank for Boeing would say. No, I'm just kidding. That's and that's one things I've noticed. Well, first off, I want to touch back on what you said about trust, because there's an old saying I heard a while back, and I don't remember if I have it exactly right, but it says trust takes years to build, seconds to destroy, and forever to rebuild.
Yes.
And so, something along those lines. I'm probably botching that quote, but it brings a good point that it takes a long time to build, seconds to destroy, and forever to repair. I think that's what it was. It was forever to repair. And that's where you'll find yourself when in any situation. And I agree I think that's one reason why people like our channels is we are calling balls and strikes. If we were getting paid for Boeing, I promise we would not be talking about the 737 MAX issue. We would be focusing on all the good things about Boeing. And so, and I'm willing here. I feel even a little bit uncomfortable talking about some of these things about Boeing, not a lot, but just a little bit, because it's like, hey, I love Boeing. I love the planes they built over the years. It was, as I said, a staple of American culture.
Right.
So, to get into that situation, it's unfortunate. I don't want to have this conversation. I would love to be the person that's like, haha, Boeing, Airbus, you're out of here. Like that used to be how it was. And I would hope that we could get back to that one day. But as far as the pain for getting paid, I've noticed it is a very emotional argument. That tends to be an argument when somebody says something you don't like. They tend to be it seems to be like the lowest form of emotional intelligence is just to shoot out and say that you're paid because as you know, I used to do some videos debunking flat Earths, and the first thing I would always get, it's either wasn't a real pilot or that I was getting paid by NASA or the FAA to say the Earth is round. And I'm just like you. If I need that check, NASA, if they can send me that check, in fact, my wife and I did a whole skit on it about a joke about me taking an oath to say that the Earth is round as I became sworn in by NASA to be a pilot. So, it's one of those things where, yes, no, we're not getting paid. We're talking about things that, and we're being as honest as we can. Doesn't mean we're always going to get it right, but we're going to give you our honest opinion on it and say, this is the way I see it. Could be right, could be wrong, could be somewhere in the middle, but it's never going to be dishonest. I'm never going to sit here and take money and give an opinion that's not my own.
That's well said. And so why don't we wrap up the episode with this? I want to start a new movement, Gary. You might want to be the first member. I want to be a flat mooner. Think about this for a minute. All right, because I saw pictures from on the moon of the Earth, and the Earth was round, but I'm not so sure that the moon is not flat. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Somehow the planets aren't flat either, if they even exist. I don't know. I tried to. My mistake was I once did a TikTok live with a flat earther, thinking that he was going to listen to reason and logic and evidence. And I've realized that's what am I talking about? I'm debating a flat earther. What am I thinking? Of course, it's going to be so you're he could not get the concept that if you go around the Earth that your nose will dip down, but it doesn't have to dip down because you're following a pressure medium across an arc. And not to mention his model, the plane is like 1/4 the size of the Earth. It's like, what's going on here? I was like, you're not comprehending the size of the actual size of the Earth. But flat mooner is definitely something I can get behind, because I'd love to see that kind of a eclipse. Certain angles, it should just be a pancake on on the line. Circle.
Yeah, but hey, that's it. Okay, how do we get from Boeing to flat Earth? I don't know. It was a wonderful journey. I don't have any additions, deletions, or corrections. Do you have any this week?
Nope, I did. I'm sure once the other videos, when I look at the comments, that I'll get something. But as of right now, I was doing, I had 2 weeks of, working, vacation, time with the kids before they started school. So,
Yeah.
that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it until I get more content
Good
out.
on you, man. You got a life. That's good. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us on Hangar Flying. Again, we want to hear your comments about Boeing, flat Earth, whatever you want to comment on in down below. Please, please, please let us hear from you, and we'll talk about maybe some of your comments on the next Hangar Flying. I'm Captain Steve. Joined by my co-host Gary B. Pilot. See you next week.